How's everyone doing? This is another episode of the Casual Pros Podcast. I'm Jeff Easterling. I'm joined by one of my favorite people in the whole world.
Who's that,
Definitely
Jeff?
my favorite person in this room, including myself, though. And that's Rukari Austin. And we are, how you doing? You doing all right?
I'm doing well. It's been a long time since we last talked, and I've missed your face.
Thanks. Just my face.
just your face. Just that.
I keep it well covered.
Yeah, that you do. I'm jealous.
But what we are going to do today, it is, as of recording, it's still kind of first week, really, of the year. And, you know, it's not just like a regular... 2020 is the freaking future. That's part of the thing. Is somebody made a post that said that 2050 is as far away as 1990 is. And I was like... I hate everything about
Thankfully,
that
I don't
reality.
remember 1990.
Oh, man.
Like, I kind of remember 92, 93.
Yeah.
Like, right in there. But 90 wasn't quite it, but still.
But it's so funny. So you get a lot of people talking about, like, 2020 is a big kind of milestone year. It's not just like, 2013 or, you know, just kind of like, I guess, a more random year. There is some significance to it. And it has a lot of people reminiscing on kind of like, well, what are the last 10 years in the decade? It's not just a new year, it's a new decade. And, you know, what does that kind of mean going forward? And, you know, what things have changed in the past decade? So we actually thought it would be fun to kind of approach it in the same way. We're going to do a couple of episodes. First one, we're going to look back. And the second one, we're going to look forward. And I think it's interesting because, man, if you're anything like me, 2010 feels like forever ago, and life was real different. But what's funny is 2010 is just the year before we met.
So 2010, to me, 2010 doesn't feel like it was that long ago until I actually look under a microscope and think about some of the things that happened. Like even looking at sports teams' jerseys. I'd be like, what the?
I've actually made the mistake of, in my mind lately, thinking about like, wow, in the past decade, I'll think of a thing and actually realize, oh, wait, that happened in like 06 or 08.
Well, yeah, the 90s were 10 years ago.
Like, I'll lump all of them into one decade. Like we, you know, just from a professional standpoint, you know, working on like Halo, like we just put out Halo Reach for the Master Chief Collection. That came out in 2010.
Yeah.
So like when you think about like, wow, like that's what makes it easier to do mile markers. I think.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, what was I doing when X game came out?
No, you're right.
Out?
That's absolutely right.
But yeah, so we're going to talk a little bit about that. 2010. What was 2010 Rukari doing? Where were we working?
How old was I? 24. I probably was not working. I want to say I was staying at a buddy Tibbs' house because I was a little bit after college.
Seattle still?
Yeah, I was still in the area. Not doing much of a damn thing, and not in a bad way.
Yeah,
just still figuring out life. I think. I don't know. Like I literally haven't. You know what I should do is get out my phone and go look at Facebook memories and be like, where the hell was I? But I want to say 2010. Yeah, I wasn't playing basketball anymore. I was 23, turning 24. Yeah, I was back home thinking I was going to play basketball.
Yeah.
But not playing basketball because, you know, you get NCAA, you get 5 years to play for.
Yeah.
NAIA, you can kind of, you know, do your own thing and come back whenever you want to. So it was still in I could still play. And then at the same time, like, well, I'm not playing, so what the hell am I doing? So I think I was actually living off of shoe sales, believe it or not.
Okay.
You know, if you know me, I like
privately?
shoes.
Were you doing it at a...
Well, yeah. So if you know me, I like shoes a lot. And back then, I had a bunch of unworn shoes. No, like even more so than now. It's just a fun passing fancy. But comparatively, I had probably 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, 150 pairs that I had not worn.
It was almost more legit collectible / investment then, I guess.
Collectible, not investment. Like I needed to have the shoes. I got them. Bam. Oh, I'm not wearing them.
Yeah.
I'm not wearing them. I'm going
to mess them up.
And then finally, with no money one day, I don't know what made me start to sell some. I think I got sick of moving them motherfuckers. Like I have a size 13, size 14 foot. Like having to move those individual boxes, I was so sick of it. And I think I sold a couple. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, made some money. Next thing you know, I think I lived the first couple of years of 2010.
Yeah.
Off of shoe sales. Actually, yeah, that's a good point. If Halo Reach was just coming out, yeah, that's what I was doing. That's literally what I was doing. So nothing. I was hanging out at a buddy Tibbs' house. We were playing Call of Duty Black Ops. We would stay up so late, like later and later each night, that eventually we went around the full 24-hour rotation. Like it started as us, like we'd start playing zombies, and we'd start at 4 p.m. and, be done at midnight. And then it was like 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m., 5 a.m., 6 a.m., 7 a.m., literally all around the clock.
You built your stamina.
That's what we did. We played video games, and we played basketball, and we had fun. I was not playing basketball anymore, but we were still like coaching and helping out with the team and doing other stuff. I was still on campus a ton. That was it. So not much of anything at the beginning of the decade. What about you?
Oh, man. So I was working, I still was at the Museum of Science and Industry in Tampa, doing programming for them. I had moved to doing that part-time at the time because in 2009 and 10, I actually went and taught at a private school. I taught 14 different courses and was a high school football coach over those 2 years. I wrote most of the curriculum, everything from forensic science to music appreciation, some pre-algebra. I did not write the pre-algebra stuff. I just taught the textbook. Creative writing, marine science, a whole bunch of stuff. And so I was doing that kind of like, as well as working at the museum. And in 2006, a close friend of mine and I had started a motorsport management company. We were managing drivers and teams in international motorsport. We did a lot of stuff with big series here in North America, like the American Le Mans Series and Rolex Sports Car Series. So I was also doing that, throwing everything at the wall to see what would stick.
What did you expect to be doing? Like, what was your goal?
Oh my gosh!
I know we talked about that.
I love teaching. Love both. In fact, I'm still friends actually now with students that were students then, middle school and high school, and now have grown up to be awesome adults, and still keep in touch with some of them. Really fantastic people, and it's been really cool to watch their personal journeys. And actually got to teach alongside like my mom for one of the years. She worked over there as well at that same school. Still doing stuff at the Science Center, which by that time was 15 years into doing that still. And then in motorsport, I just loved it. And that's what I think I was probably really hoping was maybe going somewhere long term. And in fact, that company is actually still going strong today and doing great under my friend Eric. He and I co-founded the company. He still runs it today, and it is doing awesome. And I really just mainly stepped away from it when I started working in games in 2014, so closer to the middle of the decade. But man, super, super different.
Well, yeah, I mean, I look back, and granted, it was in a decade prior.
My daughter was 10.
I worked at T-Mobile for a few years, but then I actually worked at a mattress company. A friend of ours, Jeff, owned this mattress place. Yeah, different Jeff. Still had a J. Owned a mattress shop, and another friend of mine, Trey, was like delivering mattresses for him. He was like, "Yeah, you should come on in, and help." And we would do that, and it was fun because it was a job, and it wasn't an irresponsible job, but it was the job that you were doing with your buddies. That, not to say didn't matter. Yeah. But it was looser. It wasn't like a big corporation. It was
for sure.
When I say mom and pop, there were 40, 50 employees scattered throughout stores throughout Western Washington.
It's still more of a small company feel.
We're whipping around a 18-foot long truck, the blue Ford, the diesel, delivering stuff all over Seattle. It was fun, but God, I would never go back to it.
Yeah.
Not delivering the stuff. Yeah. I'd own the spot. How about we do that?
There we go.
I'm ready for an ownership level. But I remember being like, you guys want to pay me what? $15 an hour? Boy, hey, life has changed when I look at that. Yes. I think of that, and I'm like, holy shit, I could do whatever I want, which I could.
Definitely don't think I was making that per hour, actually, especially at the Science Center in 2010. Yeah.
I don't even know if it was 15.
It was Florida.
Yeah,
it was lower income.
Yeah. And I remember I'm like, if I just make 20, I'm set for life. I swear to God. And that's
I can retire at 33.
Shit on anybody.
No.
That's at that point in their life. That was just to say that's where I was, where, you know, they say the more you make, the more your expenses go up.
Yes, exactly.
So back then I didn't have any overhead. There was no kid. There was no Liam. There was no house. There was no car. I had actually, no, I didn't even have a car at the point in time because I didn't want one. Legit was like, oh, whatever. I can, Seattle has a wonderful public transit system.
Yes, that is a foreign concept to me.
And when you're young and you're staying at your buddy's house, like you can get wherever you need to. That's crazy. Selling and delivering mattresses, sleeping on my buddy's couch or floor, like it was like we were in college again.
And you ended up going in the game industry 2013, 12.
Holy shit. Technically,
it wasn't that long.
Oh, wow, yeah. Technically, I got my offer in the end of 11.
Really?
I got the
that
offer.
Close to Halo Fest?
Yeah. I got my offer December 11th.
How did we not cover this? I feel like I forgot.
I think we did.
I think we did.
So, God, Halo Fest happened, and that's right when we switched to YAF.
Yep.
Yet another forum. That's when I was moderating the forums, and I got the offer in December of 2011. I technically started January of 2012.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So it's...
no. Yeah, something like that. But yeah. I started that shit quick.
That is crazy.
That's when I started in the industry. That's why I'm like, when we talked about doing this episode, we're like looking back, like, well, shit. Like the last decade was pretty much all Microsoft and Halo, except for the first.
When you look at the turn of the decade was very different because I would about guarantee that when you thought of the turn of 09, New Year's Eve 09 to 10. That if somebody comes up to me like in 24 months,
or where I was.
In 24 months, you're working at Xbox.
Right. Because I could tell you where I was New Year's Eve, 1999. I was at a friend's house down in SeaTac.
Okay.
And I remember the cable went out right after New Year. Yeah. And we're like, oh, shit.
Oh, no. It's going
and then
down.
It came back on. I was like, yo. And I remember exactly where I was. 2010. I was like, whatever. Oh. Where were you?
That around that time, that would have been...
Do you remember that? Do you remember 09 going into 010 that night?
09 going into 10? No, not at all, in all honesty. But I don't remember most New Year's. I'm trying to think of just when that would have been. Yeah.
See, that was the peak of my party point.
Yeah.
That was, like right at the end of college and at the end, because I was the guy that did 1.5 years of junior college in like 5 years.
Yeah.
Because I was like, after I broke up with the girlfriend, I was like, oh, people like me. Just women and men too. I was like, people like engage. That's where this started to, the mouth started to really take off.
This can take me places.
That's where I was visiting other campuses, not necessarily for sports, but to just go hang out and kick it and party. And I had friends everywhere. And
crazy.
That's where that took off.
I mean, and New Year's is always like, because in racing, like the racing season really starts at the end of January, and you have testing in January and stuff like that. So we would have testing at like Daytona and for the Rolex 24 Hours, which is end of January, beginning of February. So I remember that we would have still been doing that at the beginning of 2010. And I was teaching, like I said, at the private school and at the Science Center. So still would have been doing that. And
see, I laugh because my decade ended just as it started. As funny as that's, at least career-wise, that's how I measure it.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, all of your official like Xbox stuff happened within the decade.
Within the decade, and then the layoff hit, and now I'm sitting here right now, kind of like I was in 2010. Like, well, we're kicking it.
Yeah, just hanging out with friends.
I'm sleeping on a bed, so there's that. But no, like that's the funniest part, and that
is funny.
That's the eye-opening bit for me. Like, what would you take from the last 10 years as your greatest lesson? And I'll tell you mine.
Go ahead.
You're still never going to figure this shit out. That's literally mine.
Yeah.
Like, you can do all that you want to be prepped, and you still never know.
I think maybe the biggest lesson is stuff gets better.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Stuff just gets better. And I mean,
is it the stuff that gets better? Is it your appreciation of the stuff, or is it understanding the angles on how to get your stuff?
I think it is all of it, because there's no way to kind of pinpoint, because your appreciation for things helps with your enjoyment of things. It's no different than like if you enjoy a family recipe because of what it means and the memories that are attached to it, not just because, it happens, it's a 5-star Michelin chef, like there's so much that's kind of wrapped up in all of that. It's like, and I say stuff gets better, not even in the sense of, things were bad then.
Yeah.
But you do go through, like, throughout the decade, there were definitely points where it was like highs and lows. And, I think it's again, when you just look at some of the, especially like the earlier years, like 10 through like 13, basically, was definitely a lot of like various upheavals, professional, personal, like all kinds of crazy stuff. And then 14 really started like a, kind of a crazier upswing. 13 was a really awesome year, even though it was a really like transitional year, like 13, 14, especially. I had started a new program at the Science Center that I was at, called the Steampunks. And STEAM, we have a lot of, like, most people have heard of STEM education, science, technology, engineering, math. A lot of people are pushing towards something called STEAM now, which is including art in that, to just talk about, like, how important the arts are, but also how it goes with everything else. So science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. So we had a program called the Steampunks, and it was basically a group of characters, kind of like superhero-y characters that performed like live theatrical, demonstrations and did cool, very like theme park type of stuff. And so that period was really, really awesome. I met my now wife and we started dating late in 2013, which is crazy.
Was that long?
Yeah, it's crazy to think of.
Like Liam was born in 13.
Yeah.
Liam was born February 2013.
Holy crap.
Which means my ass was wilding out in May of 2012.
That's crazy.
That's the wild one to me. I went to work one day, not a dad.
Yeah.
Left work a dad. Like that was the biggest change.
Yeah.
Not even losing the career or gaining the career.
That's true.
That was the biggest change in my entire decade. For those of you that may not know, Rukari was a bit of a wild boy. Actually, what's funny is I wasn't horribly wild. Met a lovely lady who ended up being Liam's mom. Got a not even a phone call. I was the one that initiated the phone call. Like, hey, like even pre-birth and all that. Like, this could be happening. And I remember sitting there thinking, like, I am 25. I was 26. I am 26 years old. Like, barely tie my shoes. Like, what's gonna happen? And we ended up having to get a test just to make sure, just to cover bases and whatnot. Yeah. And I was on the way to 343.
I remember
all the calls. And I remember seeing, like, I was on 520. So you know about the distance that it took to get to 550.
Yeah.
So I'm on 520 and I'm like, oh shit, there's the mail. Can't open it yet. I need everybody around me. First of all, it was like 9 a.m. Nobody was at work.
No, yeah, 4 hours.
Yeah. Nobody was at work. And I remember opening that thing up and being like, whoo. But that was my decade right there. That was the craziest one that I think separated. So it wasn't like Microsoft Rukari, pre-Microsoft or post-Microsoft Rukari. It was that. Because clearly Microsoft Rukari was still acting wild if in 2012 that's when he was conceived.
Yeah. That's craziness.
Nevin sent me a stroller. Nevin sent me a stroller or a car seat. And I remember being like, you son of a bitch. Like, I got to put this in my house.
How does this fit?
How does this work?
Where does this go?
How does this work? Oh, man. That's been the one.
Yeah. It was because I was doing like I was saying, we had the like steampunk thing. I ended up having a staff of almost 30 like directs, and which was crazy by the beginning, mid 2014, like up through the end of 13 and stuff like that. Actually, when we went and visited family in Florida this past just a couple weeks ago, New Year's, we kind of threw a little shindig and just invited, several people around so we could get, everybody kind of all in one shot. And actually had a few folks over there that were a part of that group at the museum. And, man, we had a blast just kind of telling some old crazy stories, man, because we used to just do just weird stuff, man. I mean, when you give like people in their like 20s, and I was in my 30s, but like mentally, really.
Yeah. Still,
I mean, like, a lot of these folks are like late high school and early college and stuff like that, and you give them blowtorches and vats of liquid nitrogen and coolers of dry ice and lasers and things like that. Like, oh man, just unbridled ridiculousness.
What did Adam Savage used to say? The difference between screwing around in science is writing it down.
Yes. Yeah, basically. It's true. Could we repeat the shows from hour to hour?
Dude, that's wild. Like, I hadn't, through all this New Year, new me bullshit that people talk about, I hadn't thought of the decade in any sort of way.
Yeah.
So I didn't care, because what do you go change? And
yeah,
this sounds so horrible and so self-deprecating, but I honestly feel like I didn't learn much, because every day is a learning thing. Like, you're always supposed to be learning.
And again, even just the notion of a decade itself, it's an artificial. You can make a decade out of anything. You can make a decade of 14 to 24. I mean, like, so you can always go back. I think it's a point of emphasis for certain people. It's no different than some birthdays.
Yeah.
Like, you still just turn 1 year older from 39 to 40, but when you hit 40, now all of a sudden you may look, or when you hit 30 or something like that, like, I think it just, for a lot of people, it causes them to look back in certain ways. Again, maybe it's just the way the number looks, 2020. Like,
I mean, I definitely thought about it when I hit 30. I was like, oh, I'm 30.
Yeah.
I'll never be able to say I'm 20-something ever again.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It was fun to count down to, and then, like, 30 and 2 days, I was like, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, it's funny now thinking 33, right? Next year will be the beginning of my mid-30s.
That's true.
Like
When's
4, 5, 6. 4, 5, 6, right?
44. Okay.
Well, look, if you said early 30s was 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
Mid is 4, 5, 6.
I guess. So.
Yeah. Yeah, technically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's way cleaner if you do the 9.
Yeah. And then 7, 8, 9
exactly.
is late.
Yeah. You go the Star Wars route. The three trilogies.
Yeah. Technically, I could be in the beginning of my mid-30s now, because I've passed the halfway point between 33 and 34.
Yeah.
So I could say that, but
that works. 34 at least is 34, 35, 36. I agree.
But I remember that being a weird
30
one.
is like preseason of 30.
That's true. You're just getting used to it. You're trying it on for size.
It's a 20s victory lap.
You can't return it, but you think you can. Yeah, that's it. Well, that's what I said to somebody on my 31st. They're like, well, what do we celebrate? And I was like, oh, it's my 21 run, but the 10-year anniversary of the celebration. So we're gonna do it again. He's like, oh, that sounds great. Yeah, 32. I was like, I'm done with this shit. I am absolutely done with this shit.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, I'll be 39 really in a few weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. It's just crazy. That's an interesting one, is to be like, oh, my last 30s birthday. It doesn't. I'm not really bothered. Yeah, it's super funny. I was always so used to. I did a lot of things early. I spend a lot of time, whether it be like, stuff with academics or job, or like, I mean, I started at the Science Center when I was 14. So by the time I was 24, I'd been there 10 years.
You were a seasoned veteran.
Yeah. So people were like, oh my gosh, you've been here this long. You're this young. Or like, oh, you have a daughter that's 10. You're like, wow. And you're only this. Oh, I was always so used to being like, oh, you're this young and have done like so much. And now I'm like, oh man!
Nobody says it anymore.
I'm behind the curtain. You're like, you this old? What else have you? What have you done?
Oh, you just started in this industry, huh? Oh, that's crazy. That's wild.
That was actually a big eye-opening thing, was starting in the industry. And like, I came from doing something. I did Science Center for 20 years, and I did racing for 14 years, and now all of a sudden I was in. I'm like,
now you're new to the game.
Yeah,
I'm Jeff,
but I'm in my 30s. Like doing that. So a lot of people don't start a new career, I think, then. Which is
shit. Let me tell you about my life right now.
Right? Yeah, that's true. Actually,
technically, I did start the career in my... No, my 30s. I was 26.
So when I got into the industry, I was 33.
Really?
Yeah. So it's about the same as
damn, that's crazy.
Your kind of own personal paradigm shift.
You know, it's weird thinking not of you as 33, but of you back then. Like, it's weird trying to place an age with a time frame that you remember as a different age, if that makes sense. So 5 years ago, I'm sitting here thinking like, I'm 28, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you were 33. Like, it's, I think of you and I as the same right now. Because age is whatever. It's
especially the older we get.
The
older our kids get.
It's absolutely arbitrary. So it's funny thinking like, oh, you were right where I am because I am struggling.
Well, it's funny. My wonderful, beautiful wife makes fun of me all the time because she's about to turn 30. And it will be an about 11-month period where we're in the same decade because she's almost 10 years younger. So she's like 9 years, really. So it's funny, like, we'll finally be like 39 and 30.
Yeah.
And
and
then real quick, I'm just like, nope, I'm going to 40.
Every day you got to say that. That's what's funny is like, you know, Emily's in her 20s. And I'm almost like, you little young buck. But you mean you don't remember coming to America?
My wife, who is, you know, right now still 29, and literally right now presenting at a science conference because she's a doctorate in biology and she's a professor of anatomy and physics and all sorts. And now I'm like, oh, what am I doing in my life? I'm like,
it's okay.
Oh man, there's different ways to be accomplished, you know, and at different.
My significant other sells drugs, butt drugs. Just gonna leave it at that. Just gonna leave it. Just leave it right there for y'all. Oh, man. She's so focused in there on the switch, she probably has no idea.
Mom always said you'd marry a drug dealer.
But she's really good at it.
No, right. Well, if you're going, get the top of the game. Whatever you do it well.
Somebody at home was like, what the hell is he talking about? Pharmaceuticals, butt drugs.
That's funny.
What do you think the next 10 years brings you?
Another episode.
No, what the hell? Elevator pitch right now. You've got 30 seconds to tell me.
The next 10 years. Oh, man. I don't even know. It's crazy. When I think about that in the next 10 years, my daughter will be about to be 30 instead of 20. So maybe she has kids or is married, or maybe she's not. Maybe it's a different, like, career. What are my wife and I doing?
Getting out of the damn house.
Yeah, that's what's crazy is thinking like thinking of how old you'll be. It's like that phrase. It's like 2050 is as far away as 1990, and I think back in 1990, I'm like, that wasn't that far. But you say 2050, I'm like, no, I'll be dead.
You know what I expect in the next 10 years? Another episode.
Yeah.
I'm going to take your answer.
All right. That's fine. All right. Well, that's going to do it for us, but we'll be back. We're going to look ahead next episode to see what we think the next year and maybe even the next 10 hold for us. As Casual Pros, I'm Jeff. It's Rukari. See you later.